Hi guys and welcome back to The Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back to episode number 8 of The Mighty Blues podcast. Now we're in a little bit of a different environment here. You will have seen this environment before on the instant match reactions. Usually we're sat down at the computer with the mic, all top professional sort of stuff on the podcast. However, unfortunately today I'm not at home, I'm not at my desk, I'm not at my typical setup, so we're having to do this one a little bit more like an instant match reaction. But you know what? I'm actually quite looking forward to it because sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I feel a little bit like when I'm sat at the setup and, you know, everything's all prim and proper, there's a little bit more pressure to say the right things and sort of stuff, whereas when I just set my phone up and stick the light on and press record and I'm just sat here with a, you know, a neutral sort of background talking into my phone, sometimes I find it a little bit easier to talk and express feelings and stuff like that. And given this one is a pretty special episode of the podcast because 2 weeks ago, a week ago, when we last done an episode, we were all obviously, we were talking about that win against Forest and we were talking about how we were feeling going into the Merseyside derby. And if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I think the majority of us probably felt like we wouldn't get anything from it, but we just hoped Everton would turn up and have a go. We just hoped Everton would turn up and put a shift in and get at them and at least make it a little bit difficult for them. Little did we know Everton would turn up and absolutely wipe the floor with them and come away with our first derby win at Goodison Park in 14 years. We then went and secured our Premier League survival with another huge win at Brentford the following weekend. And we're going to talk about that week today because I think it's really important because it has been a turning point in our season. And it's not just a typical sort of cliche thing to say, oh, you know, these 3 games have absolutely spun our season on its head and all of a sudden, you know, everything's great. Now, I think there's a deeper conversation to be had. We spoke after the Brentford game. Obviously, I wasn't able to go to the Brentford game. I was at a wedding, but I have since watched the highlights. Obviously, I've seen the goal and stuff. And we spoke in the video after the Brentford game about how it's more than just, oh, the manager's made a couple of changes and all of a sudden Everton have picked up a couple of wins. Everton have gone and got 9 points in the last 3 games, 3 clean sheets at Goodison Park, 3 wins on the spin in 3 difficult games as well. We played Nottingham Forest, which was very much a 6-pointer, and I think a lot of us felt that there was an immense amount of pressure on that Nottingham Forest game because of the game against Chelsea previous to it, and I think a lot of Nottingham Forest fans will have probably been going into that thinking, do you know what, we can smell blood a little bit here, we can get at these, and it was a real 6-pointer. And listen, Everton got the win and more than deserved the win and were absolutely brilliant. Forget about the nonsense discussions about penalties that just tried to change the narrative. Everton were the better team on the day and deserved the win, and then we went and beat Liverpool and then we went and beat Brentford. It wasn't a case of just Everton's form and turned around a little bit. The manager has made changes and he's turned this side, not just from a losing side into a winning side, he's turned the side who were absolutely demolished at Stamford Bridge, you know, only a few days before that game against Nottingham Forest. A team that looked down and out, a team that looked like they'd given up, a team that looked like they weren't playing for the manager anymore. You know, our worst defeat in Premier League history against possibly the worst Chelsea side in Premier League history, and within the space of just a few days he managed to flip that completely to a side that was going out against Nottingham Forest and putting a performance in, having a go, working hard, having shots from outside the box, battling, getting in people's faces, wanting to win, wanting to fight for the football club. And then we did it in a Merseyside derby, which is not something I've seen very often in my lifetime. I'm 25 years old and I've seen much better Everton teams lose to much worse Liverpool teams than that. And it was the first time in maybe my lifetime where I've watched the Merseyside derby and I've been relatively comfortable with how Everton were playing, and I wasn't massively stressed on Liverpool getting back into the game. Obviously, I was stressed because naturally we know we're Evertonians and until that final whistle's blown, you know that the game isn't over. But I felt a sense of comfort from the players. I felt like the players felt, no, do you know what? We're winning this game when we've got it. And that is such a polar opposite to what we all felt when we faced Chelsea on that Monday night and lost absolutely horrifically, didn't we? And then obviously we went to Brentford and we picked up a huge 3 points, which ultimately means that Everton can now, and we all as a fan base can now sit back tonight when we play Luton. We'll be talking about the Luton game a little bit later on in this episode, by the way. We can sit back and we can relax, and there's no huge need for worrying. There's no huge need for panicking about the results. We don't have to watch Nottingham Forest this weekend and be worried about what score they get on, or Burnley. We can watch them sitting back, knowing full well Everton are safe here. Everton will be playing Premier League football, so whatever happens here, we can watch it, for the entertainment purpose rather than absolutely stressing. It's the first time in 3 years that I've been able to watch a team in and around the relegation zone and in and around the relegation battle and not be stressed about the game and not be, supporting the opposition side. Basically, I remember last year supporting Bournemouth, supporting Spurs, supporting Arsenal, all because they were playing important games against teams that we were fighting with. So it's so nice to now be able to sit back and just watch what goes on and know that Everton aren't in any way, shape or form impacted by it. And obviously that starts with a huge game tonight at Luton, a game that could have been a really, really tricky one, and could have been one that we were all going into with lots of nerves and lots of anxiety and lots of pressure. And don't get me wrong, I still think it'll be a tough game, and I'd still like Everton to go out and win, because like I said in the video after the Brentford game, the Sean Dyche change, the tracksuit change, if you want to call it that, it will be interesting to see how long we can keep this going on for, and how the manager can adapt it to ensure that there's a little bit more longevity rather than just a period of 3 or 4 games, because that's the manager's task now, isn't it? It's not just a case of, right, okay, we've got those 3. Some people might see it like this. Some people might think, but you know what, we've got the wins in the bag, we're safe now, we're not really bothered about what goes on between now and the end of the season. And I agree with that to an extent. Look, I'm not going to be coming out and sitting here and screaming and shouting and pointing the finger if Everton drop points tonight, or if Everton don't get the result we want, because ultimately we've had 8 points taken off us this season. We originally had 16 points taken away from us. Obviously we got points back, 14 points, 16 points taken away from us. We had a 10-point deduction originally, and then we had I can't even remember what the second one was. Was the second one a 4-point deduction, and then we got 4. Anyway, we've had a number. It's baffled me that much. It's gotten to me that much that ever since the Brentford game at the weekend, I've just completely forgotten about it all and just gone, I don't need to think or worry about that because Everton are safe. Now, the Premier League had asked for 17 odd points to be taken away from Everton this season. We had, however many it was, 10, 8, 10, something like that taken off us. 8 points it was, wasn't it? And we've still managed to survive with a month to go. Last season, we didn't have any points taken away from us, and we had a better squad, and we only survived on the last day of the season. The season before, we had an even better squad, and we survived on the penultimate day of the season with no point deductions. And the manager does deserve huge credit for that. And I was very complimentary towards the manager after the Brentford game, and deservingly so, because when you are able to overcome everything that the manager has had to overcome this season, and don't get me wrong, I'm not going back on everything I said. I think the criticism that we gave the manager was deserving. You can't go 4 months in the Premier League, which is nigh on half the season, without winning a game of football and expect it to not be criticism. I understand the background noise, the takeover stuff, the point deductions. I get it, and I've been one of the most vocal, I think, on our channel about how those point deductions will have affected the players. When news companies and journalists and all of these sort of places like TalkSport and Sky and places like this are coming out and talking about how points deductions will benefit Everton and how it will benefit the players because it will give them a boost and it will make them want to perform. I was one of the first to come out and say that's all utter bollocks. It's nonsense. It is nonsense. The players will, of course, have been affected by the points deductions because it's their hard work, it's their hard-fought wins that ultimately have been taken away and told that they don't mean anything. So, the manager has had to overcome an awful lot this season, and fair play to him and credit to him for making this small change because, as we said, I don't know what the change is. I don't know what he's done. It obviously isn't just a change of clothing. As much as we all look at it and go, oh, tracksuit Dyche, it's tracksuit Dyche. I actually, as I said, I think it's really interesting because I think the tracksuit is sort of representative of the changes that have been made, and we obviously don't know what those changes are because we've not been privy to that. We've not been told, oh yeah, we've brought a new coach in, or we've brought Seamus in as a little bit more of a coaching role, or we've changed the days of training, or we've done this, we've done that. We've not been told any of that. All as we've got to go off is, well, the manager's changed his outfit on the sideline, and as much as I'd love to think that the players had turned around one day and gone, oh, he's not wearing a suit today, he's wearing a trackie, so let's just turn up and beat Liverpool for the first time in 14 years. I don't actually think that's the case. I think the tracksuit is representative of other changes that have been made within the changing room, within the training ground, within the match day stuff, and whatever has happened, it's changed for the better. And, the manager has managed to get a really, really positive reaction from the players because of those changes. And he deserves an immense amount of credit for that. I just wish he'd have done it earlier. I just wish he'd have done it 2 months ago, 3 months ago. And, we might have been able to secure our safety a little bit earlier and there wouldn't have been as much stress. But to do it in that week when we've had 2 really difficult games against teams that are in and around our position, and the Merseyside derby against the side that are going for the title, fair play to the manager. Because I'll admit it, I'll hold my hands up. After that Chelsea game, I think I come on here and I sat right there, literally just off camera, and I think I said I don't think Everton will win another game all season. And that is how I felt. It wasn't reactionary. It wasn't I wasn't saying it to get views. I wasn't saying it to get a reaction out of people. I genuinely felt on that day that Everton wouldn't win another game of football all season because we'd gone 4 months without winning. The only win we'd had in that period was a win against Burnley at Goodison, which, let's be honest, we were terrible in, and we were very, very lucky in. It was a fluky, deflected goal that on another day just doesn't happen. And I just felt like that was a one-off. I felt like Burnley beat themselves on that day, and then the following game against Chelsea, we picked up our biggest defeat in Premier League history. So after that Chelsea game, I did feel like there wasn't a way back. I did feel like the manager wasn't changing anything. He wasn't trying something different. And, people quite often used to comment and say, well, what do you want him to change, Cam? He's only got the same playing squad. He's got a very, very, very thin squad. We know that these players aren't the most talented players in the world. We know that some of them have got talent and some of them have got ability, but they're not world-class, world-beaters, Premier League winning type of players. They're just not that. A lot of them are very limited in what they can do. But I always felt like we could get more out of them. And I said that a few times and people said, no, this is the best we can get out this squad. This is the most. The players are terrible, etc., etc., etc. And I just felt like 4 months without a win in this league is not the best we can get out of this squad. And the manager's proven that by making a couple of changes, and then the team have gone out and picked up 3 huge wins. Huge wins. And I think credit should go to the manager for that, for making those changes and ultimately putting us in a position where, after points deductions and all of the off the field stuff with the takeover and all of that, we're now in a position where we're safe with a month to go. He deserves huge amount of credit for that, but the players deserve huge amount of credit as well, because the players turned up and in this last 7 to 10 days have done what so many Everton squads had failed to do over the years. So many Everton teams with Romelu Lukaku in couldn't beat Liverpool at Goodison or at Anfield. Everton teams under Moyes in the in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, we struggled at times to beat Liverpool. I know we won every now and then, but it wasn't a frequent thing. And in the last 15 years, it certainly hasn't been a frequent thing. As I said on that instant match reaction, I think I was just out of primary school. I think I might have been in year 7 the last time Everton were victorious at Goodison Park over Liverpool, and I'm a fully grown adult now. I'm getting on to becoming the wrong side of 30. And that is a huge credit to the players and huge credit to the manager. And I think it needs to be said. And what a week it's been. Because I've had a sat here this time, sort of 2 weeks ago and thought, right, in 2 weeks I'm going to be sitting here absolutely buzzing because Everton are going to be safe. We're going to have won 3 games on the spin. We're going to have beaten Liverpool. We're going to have guaranteed our survival, and we're going to be able to sit here and talk about this Luton game as one that, does matter. Of course it matters, because like I said before, it's important to see how the manager continues this now. It's one thing being able to sort of motivate the players and implement a new system with the sort of goal of, right, let's get to safety. It's another thing once you're at safety to continue that. And I do think that is important, because as much as we'll all sit here and say we're not asked what happens between now and the end of the season, and I get that, and don't get me wrong, if Everton don't win another game between now and the end of the season, I'm probably not going to be too asked, because we're safe, we're in the Premier League next year. It's been a horrific year, it's been a horrific 3 years, and I just want it to end. I just want this season to end now. So as far as I'm concerned, for me, this season has ended now. The next few games are what they are. I want Everton to win, of course I do, and I'll be a bit frustrated and I'll be a bit wounded if we don't win, because I'm an Evertonian and I'll be watching tonight and I don't want us to lose. But I understand there's not as much pressure, there's not as much importance on it. However, I do think there is a certain level of importance on ending the season strongly. We don't really want to be ending the season on the back of 3 defeats. You know, given we've got Arsenal on the final day of the season at the Emirates, and that doesn't typically go well. Whenever we play Arsenal at the Emirates, we can sort of look at that and think, do you know what? Whatever, that is what it is. They'll probably be fighting for the title on the final day. We'll be safe. You know, feet up sort of stuff. I'm not expecting much out of that, but before that, we've got 2 winnable games, and I do half expect this Everton team to be able to go out and continue that. I don't see why we should take the foot off the gas now. I get it, there's not much pressure. I get it, the players subconsciously will be thinking, well, there's not much pressure on this now because we're safe and we don't really need to win it. But I think we've got 2 games here that we could go out on, you know, and we could end the season on a real positive. Forget Arsenal on the final day. We all know that the Arsenal game is likely to go the way it went when we played them a few years ago on the final day of the season. But if we can finish this season off the back of 5 wins, let's say, beating Forest, Liverpool, Brentford, Luton and Sheffield United at Goodison. And again, even 4 wins and a draw, even if we only get a point tonight, and then we go and beat Sheffield United next week at Goodison, which I expect. And I know there's no pressure on Sheffield United now because they've been relegated. I get that, but I still expect this Everton team to be able to turn up and play one of the worst Premier League teams of all time at Goodison and beat them next week. If we can do that, if we can sit in there in the summer and go, right, okay, what a horrendous year that was, but we finished it on the back of 4 wins and a draw. Forget the Arsenal game. We finished it really, really strongly. I think that gives us a good sort of foundation going into pre-season and going into next season to be able to look back on. You don't want to look back on it and go, well, we lost 2 games at the end of the season there that we could have got points in and it could have put us up the table. Because that's another thing we need to realise as well. As much as the stress and the anxiety and the pressure of the last 3 years has brought us to this point now where, because we are now mathematically safe generally, and I think this is a normal feeling we'll all feel, we're not as bothered. It's almost like that, right, we're safe now, I'm not even that arsed, just get us to the end of the season and get this over with. I do get that and I understand that, but each Premier League place in the table is worth a couple of £1 million. And the position Everton are in financially at the moment, with the ownership situation and with, you know, our finances being absolutely up the wall, we could really do with that extra couple of £1 million. So if we've got an opportunity to go and win this game tonight against Luton and then go and win next weekend against Sheffield United and climb, even if it's just 1 or 2 places up the Premier League table, that is a couple of extra £1 million that can go into, you know, a transfer in the summer or somebody's wages or running the club, so we can put the money that's going towards that elsewhere. You know, it'd be nice to be able to say, well, even when we got to safety, we still continued with the performances, and I don't see why they shouldn't. You know, again, I get it. Players will be thinking, oh, well, it's done now, feet on the sort of on the beach attitude. But I think it would be nice to see the manager go, no, do you know what? Even though it's done, let's end this strongly and let's go out and pick up a couple of wins on the bounce, so that we can go into the summer thinking, do you know what? We actually were much, much better towards the end of the season, rather than saying, well, yeah, we turned up when we needed to, but we weren't great against Luton or we weren't great against Sheffield United. I'd love to be able to go into the summer going, do you know what? Whatever's been changed there has worked, and has worked for the better, because Everton have had 5 games there, and even in the games that you would have thought don't matter because we were already safe, we've still turned up and performed. So yeah, I would quite like that. I'm not saying it'd be the end of the world if we don't, because as I've just said, I am absolutely over the moon that this season is effectively done now. This is the first time I've woken up on an Everton match day and sort of not forgot Everton are playing, but almost sort of gone, oh, Everton are playing tonight, happy days. And it's not been, oh my God, we need to win this, we're playing Luton, what if we don't win, what if they win, if we don't win, the pressure, the anxiety, if we don't win tonight, it will probably just be, disappointing, but who really cares, we're safe, move on. Whereas if we wouldn't have won tonight and we weren't already safe, there'd have been a lot more pressure and stuff. So the manager does deserve an immense amount of credit. The players do deserve an immense amount of credit. They've had to work under absolutely terrible conditions this season. And I know people will say, and I've probably said it before as well, I'm probably a culprit for this, the players just need to focus on what's on the pitch, and it's got nothing to do with them, what's going on in the ownership situation or with the board or whatever. But as I said, the players will have been affected by point deductions 100%. I've used this analogy before and I'll use it again. If any one of us worked in, an IT office or a coffee shop or whatever, and we'd worked for months and months and months to get our numbers up and basically get our customer service level, whatever it is, right to here, and they're proud of it and they're thinking, you know what, that's a good level, that. And then the manager comes in and goes, see all that hard work you've just done in the last few months, well, it's all been wiped away through no fault of your own and you've got to start again from here. You'd be gutted, and you'd naturally wake up the next morning and think, well, I can't be arsed going in here because I've done all of that work and it's being wiped away from me. So of course the players will be affected, and the manager will have been affected by the ownership stuff as well. Of course he would. He's got no guidance there. He hasn't got an active owner. Farhad Moshiri doesn't care, and I'm pretty convinced he's never cared. I honestly think he's arguably the worst thing to ever happen to Everton Football Club. There's no board. The board members are basically just there to fill a space until 777 come in, and I'm pretty sure they won't be given much direction to Sean Dyche, or they won't really be there for him to talk to, other than just in an informal state. I mean, no disrespect to Colin Chong, who's obviously very, very good at his regular job, but as the temporary CEO of Everton, what's he really meant to do other than just sit in the seat and do the basic duties that a CEO has to do? So that will have affected Sean Dyche as well, and I think what we've seen, and I was speaking to my dad about this in the week, and he mentioned the sort of tracksuit change, and this might be completely wild, by the way. This might be completely off, and we don't know. As I said, we don't know the changes the manager's made. We only know he's changed his outfit, and that in turn has meant that the performances have gotten better. It's obviously not just an outfit change. There's been things that have been tweaked, etc, etc. But maybe part of the tracksuit sort of change from the suit was, maybe he said to the players, listen, I don't really want to be associated with a suit sort of look, because maybe that gives a bit of a look of, well, I'm better than you, I'm above you, I'm the one wearing the suit, I'm the manager, you do as I say, blah, 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 blah. More of a representation of sort of a higher up at a club. Whereas you put a trackie on and all of a sudden you're just one of them. I'm just one of you. I'm wearing exactly the same gear as you're wearing now. We're all in this together to fight for this football club, to fight for them fans. Forget about all of them up there, not asked about them. This is about us. Maybe that has been said, maybe it hasn't, who knows. But I do think the tracksuit is representative of much more, but I think the actual tracksuit in itself represents a little bit more unity and a little bit more togetherness between the manager, the players, and then us. And it sort of disassociates with the uppers of the football club, if you like. And I know that's a little thing, and you might say, what does his outfit have to do with his association? But it does, isn't it? If do you know what I mean? If I don't know, Josh Wander took over Everton and sat in the director's box in a tracksuit, an Everton tracksuit, you'd probably be thinking, well, why is he wearing an Everton tracksuit there? So there's obviously a little bit of an association, but yeah, this is the calmest podcast of the year, and probably the calmest video we've done for quite some time, because there really isn't any pressure on Everton tonight. There really isn't. There's no need to go out and win. There's no desperate anxiety and sort of worry. I'm sure all of those Evertonians that will be travelling up to Luton now, currently on the coach, travelling up there won't be much stress, there won't be much worry. They'll be bouncing, they'll be singing, they'll be chanting, they'll be going there to enjoy themselves. And it will be the first time in a long, long, long time, probably since Arsenal on the on the final day of the season a couple of years ago, maybe in December when we had that good run, but probably since Arsenal, it'll be the first time those fans will be travelling up thinking, I'm just here for the toffees. Doesn't matter what happens tonight. We're safe. Happy days. Let's just enjoy the day. And they deserve that, because those Evertonians go up and down the country week in, week out to watch this Everton team. You know, even when we lose 6-0 to Chelsea, they'll still be going up and down the country the following week. You know, I've watched Everton lose to Arsenal 5-0 on a Wednesday night in North London, and then we've been playing Newcastle on the weekend away, and the same thousands of fans that you've seen at Arsenal a few days earlier and at Newcastle a few days later, spending their hard-earned money going to follow Everton, even when we've had very, very little hope. I remember the first season we were in a relegation battle, I went to near every away, and the consensus before those games, on the way to those games, and sometimes it was London on a Wednesday night, sometimes it was Birmingham on a Sunday afternoon, sometimes it was Brighton on a Saturday afternoon, wherever it was, the consensus was, yeah, we're probably not going to win today because we don't win away from home, but oh well, let's just go and enjoy ourselves. So they deserve to be able to go up to Luton now knowing that, you know, even if we don't win, it doesn't matter because we're safe, because we've just won 3 fantastic games on the bounce. But like I said, I'd still like us to go out and put a performance in, and I'd like us to come away with a result, because I think ending the season strongly will only benefit us in the long run, and I think it will only give a little bit more confidence and a little bit more motivation as well. And I do think it's really, really interesting now that you're starting to hear you know, all of the television companies and the radio stations now coming out and sort of saying, oh well, we always knew Everton would be safe, it was never in doubt, was it? They've had too much quality. Oh, they'd be mid-table if it wasn't for the point deduction. It's funny that, because 3 weeks ago, you know, we were scheduled to be on Sky 4 games on the spin. Everton have been on Sky, Everton have been on on television, Chelsea, Forest, Liverpool, Brentford, now Luton. 5 games on the spin. Everton games have been televised. You're telling me that that's just because they all of a sudden love Everton? No, it's because they anticipated that we'd lose the majority of them, and there'd be drama, and there'd be kickoffs, and we'd be stressing, and we'd be, you know, coming towards the last couple of games, still needing to win games, basically. They didn't expect us to turn around, win 3 on the spin and be safe. No chance, otherwise we wouldn't be on telly tonight. So, yeah, like I said, an absolutely fantastic week. The Forest game I thought was a really good performance, and I do think it's been that period, and I wanted to specifically talk about these 3 games because Everton have won 4 home games on the bounce and had 4 clean sheets on the bounce, but I don't associate the Burnley game with these games, and it's not because of the Chelsea defeat in the middle of it. If Everton had gone out and put a really strong performance in against Burnley and looked brilliant and looked like something had changed and looked like there was a difference, and we'd have won, and then we'd have lost to Chelsea, and then we'd have beat Forest, I would have included the Burnley game. I would have said, no, do you know what? We were great against Burnley as well. But we weren't. We were terrible against Burnley. It was a terrible game of football, and we won it effectively off of a fluke. We won it because their goalkeeper decided to come out and make an absolutely baffling decision, and I'm not sure why. Sorry, I've got the hiccups. It was a really poor performance, and we were quite lucky to come away from that game on that day with 3 points. And then we had the Chelsea defeat, and that's why after Chelsea, I wasn't paying too much attention to Burnley, because it was almost like, well, yeah, we were terrible against Burnley as well. They were just even worse, and we got fortunate. Whereas Forest, Liverpool, Brentford, there's been a change. There's undoubtedly been a change. The attitude of the players, the attitude of the manager, the desire, the fight. Players are now picking the ball up and having shots from outside the box. We hit the bar twice against Brentford. We're very unlucky to not score more. Jordan Pickford has now all of a sudden gone from making silly mistakes and amateurish types of decisions in games to being the world-class goalkeeper that we know he can be, making unbelievable saves. Distribution's been much better of late as well. Players like Gana Gueye have come back into the team and been absolutely unbelievable. I can't express to you how good Idrissa Gana Gueye has been over the last 3 games. I can't put into words. It's maybe been the best 3 consecutive performances I've ever seen from an Everton player. Given the importance of the games we've been playing, he's been unbelievable, and for me, there should be absolutely no question about whether or not he should get a new contract. Absolutely no question. He should be given one based on those performances alone, because he is the type of player that can turn up in those games. He's the type of player that will turn up in a Merseyside derby against the Liverpool team fighting for the title and know exactly what he's got to do and exactly how he's got to play. This lad didn't go and play with Lionel Messi and Mbappe and Neymar for years because, you know, PSG just randomly said, yeah, we'll have him. They signed him because he's a genuine top class, and on his day was a world class footballer. And even though age isn't necessarily on his side at the moment, even though he's coming towards the twilight years of his career, he's still got a lot to offer, and he showed that in the last 10 days or so. Jared Brandtwaite has been impeccable. Mikalenko playing on for 10 minutes despite having an injury that's kept him out for the rest of the season. Yeah, even Ashley Young in the last week. You know, the Forest game, he obviously made, he made one mistake that should have been a penalty. Again, I'll continue to say this. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's embarrassing if you think the other two are penalties. The third one is a penalty and you can't really get away from that. Fair enough. But he come on at half-time against Liverpool and he was absolutely fantastic. Didn't put a foot wrong, didn't make a mistake, didn't give away any silly fouls, didn't kick anybody in the air. He was absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, somebody that 4 weeks ago people were discussing shouldn't be anywhere near the starting 11, should be taken out. He's put in his best performance in an Everton shirt against Liverpool last week, and he was unbelievable. They couldn't deal with him. The best centre-half to have ever lived in the world and that will ever be gracing a football pitch, couldn't deal with him. On Wednesday, he embarrassed them. He embarrassed the pair of them. And again, as I said, that shows that these players have got more to give. These players are better than 4 months without a win in the Premier League. They really, really are. And the last 7 to 10 days has proved it. And it's been an unbelievable 7 to 10 days as well. I think if you'd have said to any of us, at the beginning of the season, Everton are going to get 2 separate point deductions this season, the ownership situation is going to be completely up in the air and it's going to drag on for months and months and months. The manager's going to go 4 months without a win. There's going to be pressure. You're going to be in a relegation battle again. I think if you'd have given us all of that information and then said, but you'll be safe before the end of April, I think we'd have said, not really sure how, but okay. And lo and behold, we have been. So, fantastic stuff, fantastic news, and a really, really good week. A really, really good week for Everton, and I just hope that we can continue it this week as well, because that's exactly what we need to do. I thought just to talk a little bit specifically about the games, we'll skip Forest because we spoke about Forest in the last episode of the podcast, but I thought we were magnificent in the Merseyside derby. I really, really, really did. And I actually remember when we last beat Liverpool at Anfield during COVID, and I done an instant match reaction, and I think I done a player ratings on that day, and I gave everyone a 10 out of 10, and I was buzzing. We'd beaten Liverpool, first time I'd ever seen us in my lifetime beat Liverpool at Anfield. It was unbelievable, but nobody was there to witness it. We all sat at home and watched it. We were all dead happy, sat on our couches, but there wasn't, that overall, that feeling you get when you win a big football match, it was nowhere near that level because we all were sat behind our couch watching it effectively in lockdown. I'd forgotten how it felt to be there in the flesh and witness my team not just beat Liverpool, but turn up in a Merseyside derby with the attitude of, we don't care who you are, we don't care if you're Liverpool, we don't care if you're fighting for the title, we're going to have a go at you. And I said in the last episode of the podcast previewing the derby, I said, I think this is one of the rare occasions, and you always hear this saying in football, and you hear it a lot when it comes to derbies and Merseyside derbies, play the team, not the occasion. And there's so many examples over the years where Everton have played really, really poor Liverpool teams that were not as good as the Everton team that they were playing. And because we'd played the occasion and they'd roughed it up and they'd made it a little bit horrible, we ended up losing the game because we didn't just go and play the team, we played the occasion and we'd lost. And this was one of the rare times where I said on the pod, I think we need to play the occasion more than playing the team. I think we need to get in the face. I think we need to make it rough for them. I think we need to engage the crowd by throwing a tackle in, by getting in the faces, by pressing high up the pitch. And that's exactly what we did. And they could not live with us. They couldn't live with us. They couldn't deal with it. And, even Dom come out at the end of it, didn't he, and said within the first 5 minutes, I knew we were winning the game. Listen to interviews. Listen to the interviews from the manager and the players over the course of the last 3 games. Listen to what they're saying. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, interviewed after the Merseyside derby, was asked last time Everton won a Merseyside derby at Goodison. Mikel Arteta played for Everton and scored. Do you think he'll be happy tonight, given Liverpool have dropped points? And Dom flat out said, hang on, last time Everton beat Liverpool at Goodison, Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Jared Brandtwaite scored, so let's just forget about them records, and I'm here to break more of them. Sean Dyche come out after the Brentford game and said, I know the score, I know the reason why we've been on telly for the last 4 weeks is because you were desperate for Luton to win and for us to lose. It's not my first rodeo. Bit of bite, that's what we're seeing now. And that's what we want to see. That's what we want to see as Evertonians. We want to see performances, we want to see players having a go. We're not a club that even though we're so starved of success and we're so desperate for success, we're not a club that demands that the team goes out week in, week out and wins. We're not a club that demands that we win a trophy every year, or if we're not competing at the top end of the league, it's a disaster. All as we demand as fans is those players go out and give 110% every week, and the manager, the players and anybody else that stands in front of a media camera defends the football club to the hilt. That's all we demand. All we demand is everyone gives 110% and battles and defends this football club. And over the years, we've not seen that. We've seen players not giving 110%. We've seen people that are employed by the football club coming out and trying to start effective civil wars. Our last board, the last permanent board we had, literally backstabbed the fans. It turned its back on the fans and said, fuck you, we're going to make out like you're the worst fan base on the planet and we're going to turn a whole media narrative onto you. That was our last board. That wasn't people sticking up for us. That wasn't people fighting for us. That wasn't people, defending the football club. Whereas what we've had in the last week is the players, the manager, coming out and saying, no, not having it. Yous all wanted us down. Yous all were against us. Yous all come with your silly narratives and we've knocked them out the park. And that's what we want to hear and see as fans. We want to see managers, players, board members. We want to see people coming out and defending our football club and saying, no, hang on a minute. That's not what it is whatsoever. It's actually this. And we want to see the players doing that by their performances on the pitch as well. And that's what we've seen in the last 7 days. 2 weeks, let's say 2 weeks, shall I say, because obviously Forest was a couple of weeks ago now. And yeah, it's been brilliant. As I said, the Merseyside derby win was excellent. The Brentford win was, I don't want to say more impressive, because it's not more impressive to beat a team of Brentford's quality than it is to beat Liverpool, but I was a little bit more shocked with the Brentford win because I just thought, right, we've had that good win against Liverpool now. It's going to be difficult to go and pick 3 on the bounce. It's going to be difficult to go and expect Everton to go out and do it again. And we did. Brentford had a couple of chances, as you would expect. But again, from what I've watched, and as I said before, I wasn't there, I wasn't at the game, I was at a wedding. But from what I've watched, Everton were the better team. Everton were the stronger team. Everton looked like they wanted it more. We hit the bar twice. The goal was coming for a while. And the 35 minutes of the game that I did watch, sort of in its entirety, was the last 35 minutes, and Brentford didn't come close. There wasn't one moment where I was sort of sitting there panicking. There wasn't a moment where I was watching thinking, oh my God, these are gonna put the ball in the back of the net here. It wasn't. We were calm. We just saw the game out brilliantly. And like I said, people might say, well, why is that such a surprise, Cam? This team were incapable of scoring a goal only a matter of months ago from open play. This team were incapable of holding on to a win a couple of months ago with 2 minutes to go, and now we've just gone and won 3 really important games on the spin. So listen, I'll round up the sort of that period, because I do think it's an important period, and I think it's a period of games that we'll remember for a long time. I think when people talk about this season, it won't necessarily be, remember when we won 4 on the spin in December. It will be, remember when we won those 3 games in April that kept us up. And I don't think any of us would have thought in March that we'd go and win 3 games on the spin in April and put ourselves in a position where we're safe with a month to go or 3 weeks to go, whatever it is, after having everything that's gone on behind the scenes this season. I think the manager does deserve credit. He does. And look, I'll hold my hands up. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to now be all pro Sean Dyche and Sean Dyche in for the rest of his time at Everton, because like I said, it's important now to see how we continue this. It's important now to see how the manager can get some longevity out of this period, can get some consistency out of this team, because it's brilliant what we've done in the last 2 weeks or so, but it means nothing if we go back to the way we were performing before it now, because we're safe. We need to continue it. There needs to be some longevity. And do you know what? If Sean Dyche can get that performance out of his Everton teams most weeks in the season, that gritty, having a go, fighting, battling teams, getting in people's faces, taking shots, being confident, then I've got no problem with him whatsoever. But that's the task now. It's getting that performance out of this team on a consistent basis. And hopefully the manager can do it, because I've always said from day one, every single time I've come on this channel and I've criticised Sean Dyche, every single time I've come on this channel and I've had a go at Sean Dyche, I've always said, I hope I'm proved wrong. I'm more than happy to be proven wrong, and I'm more than happy now. Do you think I'm sitting here fuming, gutted because Everton have won a few games on the spin and are now safe? Do you think I'm sitting here going, oh my god, I'm gutted because I wanted Sean Dyche? I had a few comments on the Brentford instant match, on the Brentford reaction and on the Liverpool reaction, like almost saying, oh, I bet you're gutted now, I bet you feel embarrassed because of what's gone on. I'm like, well, no, because when I had my opinion, I felt like it was justified. Everton haven't won a game in 4 months. That's half a Premier League season. I felt it was justified to want a change of manager in that period. But also, I'm more than happy to be proven wrong. I'm absolutely buzzing that I've been proven wrong. I'm buzzing I can sit here now and say, fair play to the manager, because he's turned it round and Everton are now safe. I'd rather that than be sat there tonight absolutely stressing my arse out, thinking, oh my god, if we don't win, it's the end of the world. No, I'm absolutely buzzing that I've been proven wrong. I'm buzzing, and I hope the manager continues to do it. And I've said from day one, I hope Sean Dyche is the Everton manager for the next 50 years, because if he is, it would mean that he's done an unbelievable, impeccable job, and Everton have continued to perform. And that's just the way it is, and I feel like we all feel like that. I do want to talk about the Luton game, but before we talk about it, I just want to talk a little bit about some of the latest news regarding the takeover stuff, because there's a lot in the media at the moment, and I'm not going to talk about specifics. I'm not going to go on and talk about articles about 777 and this, that, and the other. But there's a lot of reports in the media again at the moment that are causing worry and causing a little bit of anxiety amongst the fan base. I've said it before when talking about the takeover. I do think it becomes unhealthy. I think it becomes unhealthy reading everything that we're reading online and being so infatuated with it and so worried about it and so involved in it. I've said this from day one of doing this channel. I didn't start this channel to sit here and talk about Everton's potential owners and where they're getting their money from, and where their equity is going, and who's funding this and who's funding that. I'm not really asked. I just want us to have a decent owner with a bit of money who knows what he's doing, and if he doesn't know what he's doing, can admit he doesn't know what he's doing and employ people that do know what they're doing. And I just want to go and watch Everton win games of footy. I want to talk about Merseyside derby wins like I did on Wednesday. You'll never see me talk with as much passion and with a bigger smile on my face and with as much enjoyment when I'm talking about the owners or where they're getting their money from, as to when we're talking about wins like that. And that's that. And I'm not alone in that. I feel like everybody watching this podcast will admit, listen, we just want to be watching games of footy and watching our team win games of footy. That's all it's about. So yeah, again, as I've done for the last 2-3 months, I've not paid an immense amount of attention to it. I've read the reports, I've read the articles, and I've gauged the general overall sort of feeling of what they're about and what they mean and what it means for the club, etc, etc. But I'm not getting myself too concerned about it, because I think we're in danger of getting to a point where we wind ourselves up and tangle ourselves up that much in it, that we get to a point where it all becomes for nothing almost, because we'll be taking over one way or another. We'll probably be all right. Everything will go as we hoped it would, and all of this stress and anxiety will become because of nothing. I'm very much at that stage in life now of we'll cross the bridge when we come to it, and there's lots of media reports and there's lots of things to suggest that 777 would be the worst thing to ever happen to Everton Football Club. But considering we've just come off the back of an owner that come in on the promise that we were going to be a team challenging for trophies, and is leaving very nearly putting us into administration, having had 2-point deductions, no board. Again, I don't want to say it can't get any worse, because maybe it can get worse, but it's been pretty bad under Farhad Moshiri, hasn't it? So I'm not concerning myself too much about the news, because I remember when Farhad Moshiri come in, I was convinced Everton were going to win trophies. I was convinced Everton were going to be great. I was convinced Everton were going to challenge in the Champions League and this, that and the other. And I would have never thought 8 years later we'd be sitting here talking about administration being a possibility. So, yeah, obviously when there's any breaking news, when there's any actual news to discuss, we'll come on here, we'll discuss it, and we'll have a long, lengthy conversation about it. But at the moment, it is just news articles, it is just reports, it is just business people coming out and saying, oh, well, they haven't paid this loan for this company. And yeah, I don't want to, I'll be honest, I don't want to get to a point where I know the ins and outs of 777's business portfolio and how much money they give to each individual business and how much money they earn back and who they owe. I don't want to know how much money 777 owe to a rental car company for a garage they own in northwestern America. I just don't want to. I just want to focus on Everton Football Club, and when any real solid factual news comes out about Everton, that we can look at and discuss, because I think we can be in danger of reading a lot of stuff in the news and a lot of stuff online that isn't quite relevant to our situation, even though it may seem relevant to our situation. Ultimately, they either will or won't take over Everton Football Club, and that will be confirmed over the course of the next couple of months, and it has to be. The overall objective was get to the end of the season and still be a Premier League club, and we've got that. And on Saturday, everybody was buzzing about that. Everybody was calm, relaxed, content. Right, Everton have survived now, what a great week. And then it was almost like Sunday, Monday, oh, here's another article about how terrible these people are going to be for your football club. And you have a choice then, don't you? You have a choice to look at it and go, oh my God, we can't even have a good couple of days, back to normal, back to usual. Or you can go, yeah, do you know what? I'm not letting it ruin. And that's what I did. I looked at it and went, do you know what? I'll worry about that in the summer. I'll worry about that when I see a news notification from Everton saying 777 have taken over Everton. Then I'll look back at them things and worry. But for now, I've just had, we've all just had 6-7 months of horrendous stress. We're now safe. I'm now not going to look at my phone and be worried about who 777 owe money to in America or whatever. I'll worry about that when they take over Everton. And at the moment, we don't even know whether that's going to happen or not. Anyway, on to Luton then. Huge game tonight. It is a huge game. I know a lot of people won't particularly be interested. I know a lot of people will probably be thinking, who cares, Cam? You know, we're safe now. Let's not worry about what happens with Luton. Let's just get on with it. I get it. Like I said, I do think there is importance, and there should be importance on ending the season strongly, especially with 2 of the 3 games we've got. We all know the Arsenal game is one that we probably won't particularly be too arsed about, but given the 2 games we've got, Luton and Sheffield United, there's the chance to pick up another 2 wins there, or at least 4 points. Given obviously Luton, it'll be difficult tonight because they've got something to fight for still. But I would again, I'm not going to sit here crying and screaming and shouting and worrying if we don't, but I would like us to end the season on a strong, and I would like us to be able to prove that we didn't just turn up because we needed to and then we went back to sort of the way it was. We turned up because changes had been made and we reacted to those changes, and that reaction continued beyond us staying in the Premier League or us confirming our Premier League status, because that would be that would mean we could all sit there in the summer and go, well, do you know what? Really, really positive that even when we confirmed our Premier League status, we still continue to put performances in, we still continue to have a go. So even though it isn't a necessity, and even though it's now not the end of the world, whereas it may have been, in another scenario, I'd still like us to go out and put a performance in. I'd still like us to go out and put a shift in. Plus, Luton have beaten us twice this season, and that for me is absolute nonsense. So it'll be tough. Kenilworth Road is a difficult place to go. We know it is. Some of the top teams in the league have struggled there this season, so I don't expect it to be easy, but I would like to still see, regardless of the result, I think what's important to me tonight is performance. Everton can lose tonight, and I can sit here and say, do you know what, it is what it is. Or Everton could lose tonight, and I could be a bit frustrated. I'm not going to be as fuming as I may have been if we hadn't been safe, but I could still be frustrated because it's about performance. If Everton go out and perform the way we did against Brentford and Liverpool and have a go and get in the faces, and we manage to get a point, or we lose by the scrappy goal, whatever, we can all sit here and go, well, you know what, at least the performance was at that level again. And that's what I want to see. I want to see the performance at that level again, because it's not over. And as I said, each Premier League place is a couple of £1 million, and a couple of £1 million to Everton at this stage is huge, absolutely huge. So there you go. We're gonna leave it there. If you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. Bit of a different background and bit of a different look for the podcast this week, but I'm going to show you next week we'll be back to normal, of course. So there you go. If you have enjoyed it, please do leave a like. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. We'll be back a little bit later tonight with the reaction to the Luton game, so look out for that one. But until then, big thank you all for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you after. Up the toffees. See you after.